afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. This is your girl, Vanessa. I am the co-founder of Girl Check. I'm the co-host of Black History Boot Camp. I'm currently walking in Baltimore, Maryland, and I'm walking with my girl, Morgan, who is on the line.
Who is on the streets of the Crocodile with no bra on and sandals because I forgot about Black History Boot Camp. I'm here. I'm trying to take. Listen, yesterday was Veterans Day. I forgot, and I worked the whole day. I was like, let me just go ahead and take the day off. I was just tired. I was out there plant shopping. I was at the pharmacy getting me some iron for my anemia. And then I got our producer's text message like, live in 15. I was like, Lord Jesus. I made a decision not to wear a bra. But I got hyped up. I'm still out walking though, because y'all ain't gonna catch me slipping. That's why I dropped, because I walked down a block I never walked down before. They don't got no reception. But that song had me hyped up, Vanessa, because I remember so much. When I tell you Tupac unlocked so many memories for me living in LA, even living in Sacramento. I remember my best friend Shakir wanted to be Johnny Boy, the guy who sings the hook.
Yes. Yes.
At school they was like, who do you want to be when you grow up? And Shakir was like, Johnny Boy, I want to sing hook. I was like, that ain't no aspiration, girl. And now it is aspiration, by the way. And she can sing, but now she's running a whole lupus foundation dedicated to her daughter that I think is beautiful. So I'm so proud of her. But yeah, Tupac. What's your best Tupac lyric? Come on, break it for us. Break it down.
Oh my God. How do I survive when you're 165 in the city where the skinny die? If they bury me as a G. Every rejection, I protect her, try to get shit in the worry. I protect her down the corner. All right, I have to cut out some of the cuss words, y'all, but I see that around the corner. That's my favorite Tupac song. And how do I survive when you're 165 in the city where the skinny die? That is Nicole, and I love starting there, Morgan, because first of all, Tupac brings back such beautiful memories to our relationship and meeting you in LA. Also, Tupac is my favorite rapper of all time. He is my favorite rapper because he is a revolutionary and a rhymist. And he never let go of his people and his story, and he moved people and touched them in their soul into the masses. And I was so grateful that we were doing this story on Assata today, because when I tell you I pulled up that whole album and went so hard this morning, and I really wanted to play White Man's World, which I could also rap to y'all, but then I had a question. I was like, is that just too much to start the Black History Boot Camp? And I was like, how the allies going to feel? And it's such a deep thing, y'all, what we are building here on this line right now. This is a movement of solidarity. We are a movement of 1 million Black women all over the world. Morgan and I are just two Black women trying to speak truth to power. We built a powerful team, a national team. Did you know Carla is here in Baltimore, Morgan? We built a powerful team.
I did.
Of Black women who are just revolutionaries and who are just doing this beautiful work. So I just, Tupac feels like he has to be a part of the soundtrack of Girl Check for forever and ever. And I actually want to uplift that his name is Tupac Amaru Shakur, and that he was named after Tupac Amaru II, the last indigenous ruler of the Inca, who led a rebellion against the Spanish colonizers in the 1700s, and that Afeni named her son intentionally after him, and she chose Assata Shakur to be Tupac's godmother, binding them together, Morgan, and making them more than just blood family, but making them a revolutionary family. So I intentionally started there because today's conversation is about a woman who the U.S. government has labeled a fugitive and a threat and a danger to the state. There is currently a $2 million bounty on her head. She has been called everything from a cop killer by those who are looking to detain her, to a revolutionary by those who celebrate her. She is currently a fugitive who has spent the last 4 decades in political exile living in Cuba. And today's conversation it's about her life, but it's about something deeper, y'all. It is about family or freedom. It is about the choices that we have to make. It is about the daughter she had to leave behind. It is about the family that she had to leave behind. And Morgan, I know for a fact that there are so many women right now on this call who had to leave something behind, or who might have been the thing that got left behind.
I believe my dad had to leave me and my mom behind.
That's right.
By the way, I really do. I really do. For his own freedom and to grow up. I think he was too young to have a family. I think he was too inexperienced to have a family. And so many people understand abandonment, and they also can have compassion. So, it's so loud where we both are. I'm so sorry, listeners.
I'm sorry.
I feel like I'm yelling. It's so loud. It's so loud. But I really do feel, I'm going to try to modulate my voice, even though I can't hardly hear. It's loud here, it's loud there, but I don't want to be yelling at people. But I really feel like people are making these hard choices that you're talking about, at least in a revolutionary sense. Can you just mute it for 1 second?
Yeah. I'm going to go with I was trying to walk and find a building to go into because I had to go get some headphones, but it's very windy and cold out here, y'all. But I'm going to just keep walking and find a place.
Oh, you don't got no headphones. I was like,
I do have some headphones, but there's some new ones. It's crazy. It's a lot going on. You're right.
Oh, I got you. Listen, I'm trying to make it sound better for all of you all over the place. I know you guys are walking with us. Vanessa, I can't wait to hear this story. I don't know that much at all about Assata Shakur. The only thing I know about Assata Shakur is I was driving down the turnpike one time in Jersey, and there was a billboard for her arrest. Because I guess the Attorney General of New Jersey is, I don't know. I got to learn about the story. I don't know why New Jersey is putting up billboards. It was like in 2019. Like, I was like, what? Assata Shakur? It was like wanted. I was like, dang. That's a lot right there. So I'm looking forward to the story because I actually don't know that much about her.
Yeah, it was 2015 when they put up those billboards in New Jersey. And they put up those billboards and added an additional $1 million to the already bounty of the $1 million that was on her head. And if you go back and watch the news reporting of when they put the billboards up, and I don't think this is unintentional, it's a Black man. So it's a Black man who calls the news conference to order, and it's a Black man who says that she is a fugitive and one of America's most wanted, and is a Black man who tells the media and everybody that we're looking for her. And I was just like, wow, and it felt so violent for some reason. Not even saying in truth or innocence, but it just something about that felt so violent. So I'm excited to tell her story, and I'm excited to hear from the women around both what we've had to leave behind in terms of family, if we have gotten left behind, and how we've reconciled that. And I know this seems like it's not related, Morgan, and not putting your business in the streets, but when you were talking about, yeah, you had to leave your family and go to Africa, I actually, for some reason, have the picture of Carol Jean, and you've told the story, standing in the snow at the bus stop going to work, and I was like, and she had to leave her family every single day to like go out and make
I was a latchkey kid. My whole life I was a latchkey. I didn't never think nobody was going to be home in the third grade. It's like, my mama got to go to work. And yeah, Carol Jean used to be out in the snow. Thank you for recognizing that. I really appreciate it. And so many Carol Jeans are on the call here today who have to leave their babies behind.
Yeah, they really do. So y'all, let's get into this story about Assata Shakur. She was born as Joanne Deborah Byron. She was born in Jamaica, Queens, New York. Shout out to Jamaica, Queens. She was raised part of the time in Wilmington, North Carolina. Her grandparents lived down in Wilmington, North Carolina, and they owned a dance hall down there. And her grandparents were revolutionaries, Morgan. And every time her mom would send her down to Wilmington, North Carolina, when she was little, she said she would, when the white people would come around or in the neighborhood, she would say, yes, ma'am. She would say, yes, sir. She would drop her head. She would lower her eyes because she thought that's what you did for authority and respect. And she said, her grandmother said, keep lowering your head. I'm going to knock it off your shoulders. And she said, her grandmother said, you keep your head held high and you give respect to the people who have given it to you. And so from an early age, she started to get an understanding around who she was and how she had to actually show up as a Black woman. But she went back to Jamaica, Queens, and at 17 years old, she actually dropped out of high school for a brief time, was just lost and trying to find her way in the public school system. It was actually an aunt who later, by the way, became one of her attorneys, and we'll get to the story in a minute, who got her back in school. And she ended up enrolling in the city she got her GED. Her aunt helped her get her GED, and then she enrolled in community college, and then she enrolled at the City College of New York. And it was at the City College of New York, Morgan, in a lecture.
Can I give a shout out? Can I give a shout out?
Yeah, please.
Sorry, can I give a shout out to all GEDs, and can I give a shout out to all people who went to community college? I'm telling you, community college is the biggest sleeper in America. It's the biggest sleeper in America. You could save so much money if you just go to community college for 2 years. Then you could go to them name brand colleges for 2 years, and you could save yourself $100,000. Trust me. I wish I had did that. I would have been paying student loans a little bit less. So shout out.
And if you can't make it in 4-year college like me, and you got to almost get kicked out, and you got to start your life over, you can go to community college like I did and get yourself back on track, and then come back to college, which I also did, y'all.
I forgot about that.
Shout out to Santa Monica College.
Sacramento.
Yeah.
I had to go back to Sacramento. I was like, I'm going to be back, y'all. I'm going to be back. I couldn't pay these bills this year. I'm going to be back at USC. So when you hear we went to UCLA and USC, you hear all of that, all them zigzags. Right. But we got them degrees. So. Right.
We got the degrees. Assata went to Manhattan Community College, so shout out to her. And she was there. She then left Manhattan Community College, and she went to City College of New York. And she was at the City College of New York, Morgan, and she was in a lecture about the Vietnam War and about communism. And she said it was a lecture she will never forget, and it radicalized her. And she said the idea that somebody could tell her who her enemy was, and that somebody could tell her who it was she could hate, was just not something that sat with her. And she said it triggered in her, like, to think more critically. And she started to challenge both the students. She started to challenge the professors, and then she eventually just left the City College of New York, and she started to be an activist in the actual community, and that's when she changed her name to Assata Shakur, which means she who struggles. And this is powerful, Morgan, because we've talked a lot about Black women who have changed their names, but I'm telling you, this woman chose a name that says she who struggles. And at first I thought, like, why call that on yourself? But then she was like, she spoke about it, and she said because the material conditions of which what she was living and where her people were living in required struggle to get out of it. And so she was like, I was naming myself what I needed to be for the moment, which I thought was so beautiful and so powerful. So becoming Assata Shakur early in her 20s, she joined the Black Panther Party. Yeah,
sorry,
I know
that we have to name ourselves struggle. You know what I mean? But like, it's true. Oh my God, I just remembered something so funny. There's a guy named what's his name? Slim Buff. Oh my God, like everybody. Oh my God, it sounds like you're at Penn Station. Oh
my God. I'm almost one block from where I need to go, y'all. Sorry, every street is loud. I'm turning down every street, and they're all loud.
Wow. I can't even think what's this guy's name? I'm going to think of his name. Keep going. But I'm just saying we be having names to make ourselves tough because life be tough. That's what I'm saying. Life is tough for people. But we talked about word, sound, power and calling in when you were talking about Reverend Ike. And I also think there is something that we manifest in our lives by what we call ourselves behind the words I am. So while I deeply respect her decision, and listen, she was like, no, I needed to struggle to get out of this dark pain. You know what I mean? Like I needed to do that. Like I understand that. And like maybe we should change our names for every season of our lives. That's all I'm saying. I'm just going to put that out there as an idea. It's an idea for the community.
Well, as someone who is in the process of changing her name right now, let y'all know, y'all, it's a lot of government hoops to get your actual official name changed. I agree with you, Morgan, because God was like, I needed a new name for this new season. And a lot of people have been asking me about like my upcoming nuptials, and they're like, are you going to change your name again? I'm like, I don't think so, but shoot, when I get there and decide, I don't know, I might need a different name for that season. So I just totally agree with you on that part. I really do.
Yeah.
So Morgan, Assata Shakur. I
got a whole nother name here, but I ain't telling nobody.
Oh my God, you ain't telling me.
I got a whole nother name over here. That's all you need. It's our guys in the back. Okay, I'm going on mute. I want to hear.
I'm on mute because it's hella windy out here, but I'm not on mute anymore. I'm about to walk into in here. It was nice too. And it's quiet. All right, y'all, Morgan. Y'all am working. So Assata Shakur,
It's way better.
radicalized.
It's way better.
And
Thank you, Lord.
way better. Yes. But that's, y'all, we really be out there. And I was convicted. I was like, do I get outside and walk? I didn't even have no headphones. It was kind of windy, but I was in a conference right before this and I needed to air. You know how those conferences just be so stuffy and the conversation was so thick. So I was just like, no, I really got to get out and walk. So thank you all for bearing with me. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited that I'm in a little bit more quiet place so that I can tell you the details of Assata Shakur and so that we can have a conversation around family or freedom and when we need to choose. It's not even sometimes it's a either or, sometimes it's a both and, sometimes it's a right now and then a later I'm going to choose the other thing. But for Assata Shakur, she chose early in her life a life of freedom fighting and a life of being a revolutionary. And once she changed her name, she then entered into the Black Panther Party. And of course, this is the height of the 60s. It's the height of the Black Panther Party. They are organizing all across the country. They are organizing for Black liberation. She was heavily engaged, and also she was a heavy critic of the Black Panther Party. And she had thoughts around the role of women. She had thoughts around them being actually more revolutionary. She especially had thoughts around them being more anti-capitalist. And in several of the things that I read, one of the things that she consistently said over and over again is that white people are not my enemy. The system is my enemy. Capitalist structure is my enemy. And she said, I am fighting the systems and I am fighting the structures, and anybody who wants to stand on my side and fight against those things, I'm down for. So in the retelling of her story, I think that she has been painted as a woman who had a lot of hate in her heart or had this violence in her heart towards white people in particular. And she said that wasn't her case, that she was addressing the system and the struggle of the people, that of her and her people. And she said she wanted to offer genuine critiques to the Black Panther Party, but that they were resistant to that critique. And of course, this is at the height of COINTELPRO. And so COINTELPRO was so effective as a strategic disruptor to Black liberation movements across the country and the world. They intentionally embedded themselves within the organization. They intentionally disrupted the leaders, many of them who got hooked on drugs. That was an intentional kind of scenario. A lot of infighting, a lot of surveillance, a lot of things happened with COINTELPRO because the government itself and all of this documented. And it matters that this is documented because it is documented on an FBI wanted poster that she is a fugitive. And I'm like, so let's also document that the FBI themselves and the CIA have all acknowledged fully and completely the COINTELPRO efforts that were intentionally trying to take leaders out. She, Morgan, eventually decided to leave the Black Panther Party, and she wasn't the only one. There were several people who eventually splintered off into an organization called the Black Liberation Army. And I'm saying splinter off into an organization called the Black Liberation Army, but Assata was actually super clear and to say that it was never a formal organization. She said it was an idea. She said it was a movement. It was a concept of that people who were leaders in the Black Panther Party and in other parties had held that they themselves needed to be more radical in their actions. She said they never formally got together or did anything, but they were just holding space for each other in the work that they actually did. So Assata Shakur, through the Black Liberation Army, who had a very radical stance that they were not on the nonviolent stance of things. They were on the by any means necessary, and if it included violence, it might include violence stance. So Assata Shakur was a part of this network, and she was targeted many times before her most famous arrest, which we'll talk about in the shootout on the New Jersey Turnpike, which we'll talk about in a minute. She had been surveilled, she had been pulled over, she had been harassed, she had been arrested multiple times. They had never been able to get any of the charges that she was arrested for to stick, or they had taken her to trial. Those charges were dropped. It was an ongoing scenario that led up to a night that changed her life forever. And it's the night of May 2nd, 1973. She was traveling on the New Jersey Turnpike with two men. One was Zaid Malik Shakur, and the other was Sundiata Acoli. They were both members of the Black Liberation Army. They were pulled over by a New Jersey state trooper for what he described as a routine traffic stop. And then I'm going to stop here because I want Assata, in her own words, to tell you what she says happened. So Tyrene, if you could just cue up that clip.
My name is Assata Shakur, and I was born and raised in the United States. I am a descendant of Africans who were kidnapped and brought to the Americas as slaves. I spent my early childhood in the racist, segregated South. I later moved to the northern part of the country, where I realized that black people were equally victimized by racism and oppression. I grew up and became a political activist, participating in student struggles, the anti-war movement, and most of all, in the movement for the liberation of African Americans in the United States. I later joined the Black Panther Party, an organization that was targeted by the COINTELPRO program, a program that was set up by the Federal Bureau of Investigation to eliminate all political opposition to the U.S. government's policies, to destroy the black liberation movement in the United States, to discredit activists, and to eliminate potential leaders. Under the COINTELPRO program, many political activists were harassed, imprisoned, murdered, or otherwise neutralized. As a result of being targeted by COINTELPRO, I, like many other young people, was faced with the threat of prison, underground, exile, or death. The FBI, with the help of local police agencies, systematically fed false accusations and fake news articles to the press, accusing me and other activists of crimes we did not commit. Although in my case the charges were eventually dropped or I was eventually acquitted, the national and local police agencies created a situation where, based on their false accusations against me, any police officer could shoot me on sight. It was not until the Freedom of Information Act was passed in the mid-'70s that we began to see the scope of the United States government's persecution of political activists. At this point, I think that it is important to make one thing very clear. I have advocated, and I still advocate, revolutionary changes in the structure and in the principles that govern the United States. I advocate self-determination for my people and for all oppressed people inside the United States. I advocate an end to capitalist exploitation, the abolition of racist policies, the eradication of sexism, and the elimination of political repression. If that is a crime, then I am totally guilty. To make a long story short, I was captured in New Jersey in 1973 after being shot with both arms held in the air and then shot again from the back. I was left on the ground to die, and when I did not, I was taken to a local hospital where I was threatened, beaten, and tortured. In 1977, I was convicted in a trial that can only be described as a legal lynching. In 1979, I was able to escape with the aid of some of my fellow comrades. I saw this as a necessary step, not only because I was innocent of the charges against me, but because I knew that the racist legal system in the United States, I would receive no justice. I was also afraid that I would be murdered in prison. I later arrived in Cuba, where I am currently living in exile as a political refugee. The New Jersey State Police and other law enforcement officials say they want to see me brought to justice. But I would like to know what they mean by justice.
That was an excerpt from a letter that Assata Shakur wrote and read in 1993 from Cuba. She wrote the letter to the Pope. She wrote the letter to the Pope because the state of New Jersey, who knew that the Pope was going to Cuba, had petitioned the Pope to put pressure on Cuba to return Assata Shakur to New Jersey. And Assata Shakur wrote that letter, sharing, which she has also written in her own book, Assata, her side of the events that happened on May 2nd, 1973, when she was traveling with Zaid Malik Shakur and Sundiata Akoli on the New Jersey Turnpike, when they were stopped for a broken tail light, when a confrontation escalated into a shootout. Zaid Malik Shakur was killed, Trooper Warner Forrester was killed, and Assata asserts, who was shot twice, she asserts that she was shot while her hands were up. She was shot in the arm and she was shot in the back. She was arrested and she was charged with murder, attempted murder, and multiple other crimes. The jury, which included 15 jurors, 5 of the jurors were family members of state troopers. 2 of the jurors themselves had expressed open racial hostility. She was convicted of a life sentence plus 30 years, and she was contained for the first 2 years in an all-male prison for under solitary confinement. And then she was moved to the Clinton Correctional Facility. And at the Clinton Correctional Facility during a visit, and the details are very shaky, by the way, she became pregnant with her only daughter, who is alive and free today, living in the United States under very low profile. She escaped prison with the help of people from the Black Liberation Army, including Matula Shakur, who was one of the people who was accused of helping her to escape. And she escaped, in her own words, like she said, because she feared for her life, and because she feared that she would be killed in prison. And she has been in exile ever since. But she is a convicted murderer. She is a convicted cop killer. She was the first woman ever to put on the FBI's most wanted list. And she is a fugitive today. And in 1993, when the state of New Jersey was petitioning the Pope, she wrote that letter. And in 2015, when it hadn't been effective, obviously, in 1993, they reorganized up the ante on her to $2 million and put those billboards up that Morgan spoke about. So this is an ongoing, active manhunt for a woman who said that she is a revolutionary, that she is a freedom fighter, and that she was defending herself by escaping, and that when she was shot with her hands up. She was shot in her arms and she was shot in her back. I'm not even here to talk to y'all about the details of that night. We're not even here really to talk about the details of the trial, but I'm here to talk about the decision that she made once she escaped, that she would have to leave this country. She has not returned here. She's been in exile for over 40 years. And that means that she would have no contact with any of her family, any of her friends, any of her community, and mostly her daughters. And she writes specifically about that decision. And she wrote about the decision to have her leave her daughter behind as the toughest decision she's ever had to make. She talks about it in an ancestral way of how the ancestors were stripped away from their children on the shore. She talks about it in terms of the enslaved way of the enslaved people who were stripped away from their own children. But she said she had to make that choice for her freedom so that she could continue to fight and be alive to continue to fight. And it is a harrowing choice to have to make. And that is the conversation that I want to talk about now, which is she chose freedom over her family. And she said she did it intentionally because she had no choice. And that is a decision that so many people are having to make. Are you there, Morgan?
I'm here. Yeah, I think
You're here.
Like so many people that I know and love, particularly people who immigrated to America, their families were torn apart with that decision. They were torn apart with that decision. So in order to have what was sometimes war, sometimes extreme poverty, sometimes just aspiration to have a better life than kind of status quo, mothers all across the Caribbean, mothers all across the continent of Africa, fathers all across the diaspora, sometimes have to leave their own children. You know what I mean? And so many people we know, like so many of our own friends, have experienced it as a normal. You understand what I mean? Like, I was raised by my grandmother for, until I was 16 because my dad was in America or my mom was in America or, whatever it is. And I just find like that feels like an impossible choice too, but it's like a deep sacrifice so that the next generation can have more than what you have. You know what I mean? Or like I was telling you with Jerry, like he was like, I'm going to join the British Army. And I was like, I don't want you to join the British Army. And he was just, but I got to think about my niece, and I got to think about her options in her life, and if she wants to go to college and all these other things. And he's a patriot here in Ghana, and he doesn't want to go fight for a colonizer army, but it's like the only option, so that he can have enough money so that he can raise the status of his family. So it's just like, and that's somebody I love, you know what I mean? And it's like a direct decision. So it doesn't always have to be revolutionary. Sometimes when she talks about capitalism, sometimes it's a function of capitalism that you go to where the money is.
That's right. And we are having this conversation so intentionally right now in this country with the conversation around the migrants and the rhetoric that has happened since the election around who is going around mass deportation and the conversation around why people are coming here. And when I tell you, y'all, that nobody wants to traverse through the woods, through the swamp, in the middle of the night, through the desert with no water, with leaving their family behind, with no belongings, it's like, it reminds me of Warsan Shire, the poet. He has that poem that says, nobody leaves the shores of their land for like sharks unless the shores are unsafe. And that is what's happening. I mean, my man is from Cameroon. A lot of you guys know that. And he left his land in 1999. He hasn't seen his mother in 25 years. And he came here with absolutely nothing. And when his mother knew she was leaving, all she did was give him the number of one woman who she knew in Maryland and said, don't come back. And he hasn't seen her since. He hasn't seen his family since. And he has such a posture of like, almost long suffering. What is the other word in the Bible when they call it long suffering? Is something else too. It has another word to it, but it is just a fortitude of like, this right now is my situation.
Forbearance.
And I'm going forbearance. Thank you, Morgan. Yeah, such a forbearance. And he does believe he's going to see his family again, but the level of patience that he has had to cultivate, the level of patience that immigrant people and migrants in this country have had to cultivate in order to leave everything behind with an assumption that things might get better, but with not even any understanding of how they might get better. Like, that is such power. So it is what happened to Assata Shakur. I want to hear from the women on the line. I want to know, what is it that you need to leave behind right now that you're scared to leave behind? Is it family? Is it friends? Is it comfort? And then I would love to hear from women who maybe felt like they were left behind. And what do you feel about that right now? I'm asking those women because I was left behind by my mom, Morgan. I have been left behind by her now in some regards, and I'm okay with that. My mom is a resilient, and she was homeless for almost 20 years, in prison for almost 20 years. And she's on the other side of that. She's had sobriety now for almost 10 or 15 years. She's living a beautiful life in Portland, and she makes an intentional decision on a daily basis to create deep boundaries around the family. And a lot of times that includes me, because the family triggers her towards drug use, the family triggers her towards mental health, and she has assessed that it's not always a safe space for her. And so our relationship is growing now, but it's growing in a cautious way because she had to leave me behind. And I am like, I see that. I even see, and I felt it too. And so when I look at her, I'm more happy that she has found her own posture. She's found her own health. She's found her own happiness. And I genuinely am like, if she had to do that without me, I'm okay that she had to do it without me, because I would rather my mother be alive. I would rather her be well. I would rather her be whole than I would rather her and I have a relationship, quite frankly. And sometimes we have to travel this road alone at times. And sometimes we'll get to travel it with other people. And we don't know what the circumstances are always going to be.
Vanessa, I'm so proud of you for telling your story. Shout out to your mom, shout out to your man, shout out to everybody who's had to make these decisions. I say to you, yes. And Vanessa, your mom hasn't left you behind now. She hasn't left you behind now. And she actually is probably listening to this call right now. And she'd be on that page in Portland, big up and girl trek all the time. She'd be at all the comments, big up and girl trek all the time. And I say this to say, because I'm your friend, I'm your sister.
Yeah.
But also, I respect your truth, and I respect yourself, and I know you were alone for a long part of your life, maybe the majority of your life. And I'm asking you on behalf of your mother to give space for her to show up in the ways that she can show up now, and maybe not label that leaving you behind, because I ain't never seen nobody go so hard in the paint in the comments as your mom. And so, you know, somebody told me last weekend, when you ask somebody to give you something that they don't have, that's mean. And I think sometimes it's a capacity issue. Like when I think about my father, it was a capacity issue. He couldn't stay. He had to grow up. Right. He had to go out. He had like this zest for life. He couldn't be the kind of preacher my mom wanted him to be. He couldn't do it. Like asking him to do it is mean. It wasn't in his capacity. You understand what I mean? And so I think it is now. I think he's grown. I think he has like deep regrets. But I think about that with the people we love, and I think about all of the people who are holding on to deep abandonment wounds and pains that, you know, my father left me, my mom left me, they chose something else over me, they chose their own freedom and happiness over me. I just want you to think about, what age they were making that decision. Was it 20? Was it 15? Was it 25? Was it 35? Maybe even 45. And then I want you to ask yourself, did actually have the capacity to show up in the ways that I needed them? Do you really think they did? Both mentally, like in terms of like sobriety, in terms of like spiritual fortitude? Like, did they have what they needed? And sometimes the answer is no, and that's a hard answer. They didn't have what they needed to take care of me. You understand what I mean? And then I think about, we were talking about refugees, V, and you brought up the
not only do I know what you mean, but we haven't even had I know what you mean, and I'm saying this to the women who are listening because we haven't had a hand raised yet, and I'm telling you this is a hard conversation, and even as you are telling it to me, I don't want to believe you. Like, I believe you, and like the story I have told myself, and even the conversations we have had make me feel different, and it is so hard to change the perspective. So I both appreciate this and I know it's hard. And I'm asking some woman out there, if this story means something to you, if you have navigated this, let us know. *9 your hand, *9 raise your hand, come on the conversation.
You don't have to have no fully baked ideas, y'all, by the way. We on here grappling and taking risks. We don't know what we're going to say next. We talk about our actual real lives, the people we actually really love, our parents, our hurt, our wound, our childhood traumas. Like, get on the line with us. Don't leave us out here like this. That's all I'm saying. Get on the line with us.
They done already. Tyree, like, how you smile? No, because people are scared. Y'all, we are scared.
And some people, we just talk about it. Some people are choosing to go to prison. That's I kid you not.
No, you're
families. You understand what I mean? Like, set it off. And I'm saying, like, these are, like, not easy choices. They're not easy choices when you are, like she was saying, how you have to struggle. Like, it's like poverty or prison. What you going to choose? Like that, you know what I mean? Like, it's not easy choices. So let's hear from our family and friends on the line. If you're there, sister, say your name, where you're from, and tell us what you're thinking.
Hi, my name is Marlon, and I'm calling from Baltimore.
What's up, Baltimore?
And Baltimore is my chosen home. I'm not originally from Baltimore. I'm originally from Georgia. And this conversation resonates with me so much, this choice between freedom or family, because I'm not from here. My family is not from here. They don't know anything about this place. But as an adult, I have intentionally moved to Baltimore 3 times. This is my 3rd time living here. And I chose this place because this is a place where I feel I can lift up my head, where I feel like I can be free and be myself. Whereas I felt where I was from in rural Georgia, I couldn't do that. And you mentioned earlier Warsan Shaw's poem, Home. And she says at the beginning, no one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. You only run for the border when you see the whole city running as well. And so this conversation that we're having today, I think it's so easy for us to judge individuals, you know, and say that a person ran away from something. But I think we also have to look at what kind of system pushes a person to have to choose between family and freedom when that shouldn't be a choice. When it should be just a reality, you know, for everyone. But I feel like as Black people, and especially as Black women, we're forced to make that choice all of the time. And a lot of us choose family because we like to be in community, and that's great. What I struggle with is I believe in reciprocity. And sometimes I feel that people who are in my groups don't believe in reciprocity. And so then we tap people dry. So I think we have to do, instead of like pointing the finger at other people and saying, this person chose whatever over the family, you know, to look at what have we done or how do we treat this person that would make this person say, you know what, actually, if there has to be a choice, then for me, it's going to be freedom. I also want to say Girl Track during the pandemic, this saved my life because the pandemic was a very difficult time for me with family and just with community. And being able to be on this line and to get up and walk, I felt seen and I felt heard and I felt I was a part of something. So I also want to thank you all, Morgan and Vanessa, for the work that you've done with this and recognizing this is a space that we didn't have and that we needed, and to put all of us from all over the world together in this kind of way. So thank you.
Thank you. So what is your name again?
Marlon.
Thank you so much, Marlon. First of all, thank you for bringing in Warson's actual words. Nobody leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. And then thank you for, one, just your bravery around you yourself going off and living in Baltimore and doing what you needed to do for yourself. And even, I think, for the reminder to people that this is family and community, this call and this conversation. And we did and are building this space intentionally for those people who had to leave home because home was the mouth of a shark, and who are feeling lonely and who are feeling isolated and who are feeling disconnected and who are feeling left behind. Like I sometimes feel like I get to come on this call and feel like I am a part of community. So just thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Tyrene, we got another caller. We could take somebody else.
Oh, I appreciate you all.
Yes, hi there. Hi there, sister.
And I appreciate you all. Oh, man. I'm
Tell us your name. Tell us where you're calling from.
Marcy from New York City. I'm
Marcy.
trying to get started. So I have so many options of what to tell in terms of stories, but I'll tell you this. When I was filling out the form on the app, and you say, I'm the daughter of and the granddaughter of. When my mother and her twin sister were eligible for their Social Security, they had gone through life without birth certificates. They were both born in South Carolina. And you cannot get your Social Security without that document. So it was that time that they realized that they were adopted all of their lives. They thought that they were born on a particular day, and they were born about 5 days earlier. And they were given away. The story is varied, but apparently the young lady, who's my mom's biological mother, was raped by this man. Now, both families knew about the twins, they're fraternal, and we have met our family. My mother seems to be a little more damaged by that news. You know, I was a little excited to know I'm an only child from my mother, though I have brothers and sisters with my father, and that's a whole nother story. So, you know, the lies, the deception. You know, my grandmother was really smart. She left them a house in South Carolina, which they chose to sell, but she had all the paperwork in order for them to eventually find out who the family was. I spoke to the mother. I called this woman. At that time we had dialing information. And when I got off, I called her. I said, I'm this person. Do you know these names? Because there were different names on their birth certificates. And she didn't hang up on me. She says, you got to speak to, and she named some man. And when I hung up, I said, I just spoke to your biological mother. I just know it in my spirit. My cousin Yolanda got to meet them. And again, we all went on cruises together, and we know who our family is. but she had to leave them behind.
Yeah.
And it causes me stress now. I'm a caregiver for my mom, and the 2 birth dates, because we can't reconcile that from here, causes me a lot of problems with the Medicare and the financial payments and all of that. It haunts me, and I wonder, should my mother die before, because we never know. You know, am I going to be able to get a death certificate? You understand what I'm saying? So I was very touched by the story of Tupac's mom, and definitely, you know, it
Her dog,
a lot
his dog. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing up adoption, and thank you so much for, one, what you said is you think she was raped. And so sometimes when we are even leaving things behind, like the trauma, like of a choice of a woman saying, I'm going to give up my child for adoption, like the choice in that moment and the things we can't even begin to understand is also another layer to this conversation. So I really deeply appreciate you for bringing that up, and blessings to you as you are being a caregiver to your mom.
Thank you, ladies. This is a wonderful boot camp. I'm learning so much, and I am very grateful to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Vanessa, I was thinking about even seeking freedom from a family of one, right? Like sometimes leaving your own body in order to feel liberated. You understand what I mean? Like, and that's, I'm not talking about suicide in this case. I'm talking about disassociation. I'm talking about when you can't even be embodied anymore because it feels like even the familiarity of your own body feels too painful. And I was thinking about, there's a woman, you've heard this story, but maybe some listeners on the line have not. When I was in college, I was watching the Truth and Reconciliation trials of the apartheid. And this lady was saying that these Afrikaner police came in and they had raped her. And while they were raping her, she was watching from above. And I was like, I just burst into tears, not because I haven't been raped before, but I've been in a place ancestrally where I had to divorce myself from my body to survive. So I knew it. I knew exactly what she was talking about. To divorce yourself from your body to survive. And so, like, thinking about like these choices that we are making to get out of the shark's mouth in order to experience any form of freedom, like, I get it. And then there's a whole nother layer, because I was just thinking, I just left my home in South Carolina. I did not want to leave my home in South Carolina. My chosen family was there, but it was not a free place for me. It did not feel like I was aligned with God's will for my life. And so if you are not aligned with God's will for your life, sometimes you have to make a bold move. And somebody out there is listening to this right now. You are with your family, sometimes your chosen family, sometimes the love of your life, and sometimes it's not aligned with God's will for your life, and you got to get free. You got to get free. I mean, in 24 hours I left, Vanessa. I didn't even tell you. 24 hours I left. I was bawling to the airport, but it was the right thing for me to do. It was the right thing for me to do, and I thank God for the fortitude to be able to do it. And so sometimes the thing that's not popular, or sometimes the thing, one of the callers said we're judging people if they have to choose freedom. Sometimes we're freedom fighting for our lives, our spiritual lives, our emotional lives, our mental lives, our physical lives. Sometimes, even from the domestic violence episode, that woman said she was fleeing for her actual physical life. And I'm saying, so like, we can't judge the people who leave us behind sometimes, and we have to find ways to soothe our inner child and the abandonment that we felt by their choice. We need to think of some of the ways for people on the phone where they can soothe that inner child, because I really believe it's important that we figure out ways to do that.
Yeah, it's a really good question, Morgan. It is. And even, I'm sure what you said has helped somebody, and sometimes we have to just acknowledge when family isn't safe, whatever we define family as, or when it doesn't feel good, or when it doesn't provide freedom, or when it's sometimes like our concept of family, or even the honor thy mother, honor their father type of kind of the commitment that we make, the sacrifice above all else, like it is not supportive of
our healing or being in that alignment in the way that you're talking about. And we're just holding on to these obligations and expectations and all of these things in ways that we don't need to. I know we have another caller on the line. We'll take this one last woman before we get ready to wrap. This has been such a good conversation. I appreciate everybody so much, and especially you, Morgan. Sister, are you on the line? Can you hear us?
I believe I'm on the line. This is Kimiko.
You are?
Douglasville. Hi, this is Kimiko. I'm walking out here in the streets of Douglasville, Georgia.
Hi there, Kimiko.
Hi. So, first of all, it's so much, and I'm going to try to keep it brief. This is a very complicated, as you know, and layered topic, and I really, really do appreciate it. At this stage of my life, I can relate to much of what you said in terms of boundaries around relationships. And I will say that I have been blessed to create my family of choice. And I have a huge family of origin, which is, that's also very complicated. And the relationship with my mom, it's hard to explain, y'all, but I can understand about creating the boundaries around sometimes even those whom you love in order for your own peace of mind, your own health, and your own healing. So there have been several key relationships in my family of origins that I've been personally separated from. And so I'm still, in this day and age of my life, I'm 60 years old, or shall I say I'm 60 years old, and I'm still just learning. I'm still just learning how to do this thing, and I stay open. You ladies, this Black History Boot Camp, I've been listening for a long time, and this is the first time that I've raised my hand because this is a really real personal topic for me, and it just spoke to me. I've learned so much. I've been like picking up my heels, sauntering. I've never worn a dress out on my walk yet, so I think I'm gonna have to.
Well, you got these folks out here sauntering. You know you got to have some mortgage. You got to out here sauntering.
I'm like, I got to saunter. I got to get my saunteration situation on. That's what I'm gonna do. But so thank you for that, even that inspiration. But here's what I'll say: every day, I have to be super intentional. My dad transitioned in 2020, right at the peak, at the opening of COVID. I lost a child in 2021, a year later. And those have been the two most significant losses in my life that I'm still on my grief journey, and Girl Trek has really poured into me in many, many ways, as well as my loving village of sisters and family of choice and family of origin. And still, I'm just out here trying to figure it out. I make it an intention to, I say, make a sandwich of the fruits of the spirit, with the first three, love and peace being my bread and joy being my filling. And that is how I walk every day. And thank you so much for this topic. It's really just beautiful and appropriate and quite timely. And thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for leaving us with that a tool and a resource, which is to tap into the fruit of the spirit and to remember joy and peace and to make a sandwich around it. I never heard it like that, but I appreciate you.
Thank you, sisters, and y'all continue to be blessed. You are blessing so many women, and I will keep listening.
Oh, thank you, y'all. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you for this walk. We've gone through 7 stories out of the 21 already. We're going to be here for the rest of the month of November, Monday through Friday, walking live at noon. And if you missed the noon live conversation, you can download the recordings. And if the recordings, you can share them with somebody. Morgan, do you have anything before we wrap up?
Yes. Vanessa, it's been so wonderful. I was thinking about Tupac, I know the closing song, but I was thinking about only God can judge us, and like what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. You know what I mean? Like what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And one pointer I would give to everybody out there is just like Vanessa told her truth, and I'm sure your mom will hear this. Maybe your man will hear this. Like we have to start telling our perspective. And we have to start speaking our pain so that we can give the people who love us the opportunity to share their story and their perspective and their pain points so that we can stop suffering and we can cultivate compassion with one another. I mean, one of the most healing things that has happened to me over the last 2 years, God is working on me, and I'm just so grateful to God I could just shout, is I've had so many conversations with my father, and my little Morgan, my little 3-year-old, 4-year-old Morgan is healed and smiling and happy because my daddy gets to like explain his point of view and what he was going through and his mental health crisis and his regrets and his mistakes and his addictions and all of the things he was grappling with as a young man, and how sorry he is. And those conversations don't always end quite like that. But it wasn't even what he said that was healing. It was what I said. I was the one who told him, Dad, I think this is what's happening in my relationships because I don't want to be abandoned. You know what I mean? And so I leave first, you know? And he was like, please don't do that. Let me tell you why. And we were able to like have like a conversation. If you know my dad, like he ain't no conversationalist. He wear cowboy boots and smoke blunts. So it's just like, it can happen, y'all. It can happen. So I just encourage everybody out there to have the conversations around these kinds of choices that we're making and do it without judgment. Do it with curiosity. Do it with a yes and. Yes, I hear that was hurting and it hurt me too. Do it with a yes and spirit and heart posture. And I promise you, you got to do that so that you can heal the child inside. You can experience real freedom, no matter, that's unconditional, real joy, real happiness, real delight. That is not conditional upon somebody else's love or validation. So I've loved this conversation. I've appreciated the calls. I've appreciated your candor, Vanessa, and shout out to both Tupac and his godmother, Assata Shakur, and to every freedom fighter out there who's trying to make a way out of no way.
Thank you, Morgan. I love that. We're not going to end on Only God Can Judge Me, although we will add that to the playlist because it's good. We're going to end with one of Assata's poems.
I can just rap it for you, Vanessa. I can just rap it for you. Listen, I'd rather die like a man than live like a coward. There's a ghetto every heaven and it's ours. Black power is what we scream as we dream in a paranoid fate. It's a life. Hey, dear mama, can you save me? It's more peace in the streets, got to save us. We got to eat everything. I can't remember the rest. Run around, Mr. Please try to understand me. You motherfuckers are just like me. Only God can judge me. Only God. And then, this is the best part. This one, then, what's his name? Rapper Forte.
Rapper Forte. That's right.
Somebody on the real. Hey, Marcus trying to kill you. That's my favorite. No, we can play. What song you playing for real?
Well, we just got that song, and now we're really going to play out onto a performance of one of Assata's poems, and the lyrics just mean so much to me. I believe in living. I believe in life. Maybe you guys have heard it, so we'll close out and see you tomorrow.
All right. Love y'all. Bye.